Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line as he does most Fridays because we took last Friday off. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mike Reyes from Cinemablend to talk about movies. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
You took last Friday off.
I
was
did.
still working.
I did take last Friday off. That was the day that we took possession of our new house and started the moving process, which I have been doing since. We're recording on a Thursday. And moving sucks.
Yeah, it does, but it's always nice when it's done. But, I mean, is it really taking off if you're moving? Like, does it really still count as taking off?
No, I worked all week. Like, at one point on, I think it was Sunday night, I hit a point where I sat down on the floor and I was supposed to be putting together the guest room bed. And I was just like, I'm out of gas. I'm done. I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
So, but no, the process on itself went fairly well. Last night, I kind of got the last big piece put together, like the video game center. So it was the last thing to happen.
Yeah.
I knew if I put it up, I wouldn't work on anything else. So,
ooh, how's it look?
It's fine. It's not it's not its final form. We have to, at some point, we're going to finish the basement in this place. We're trying to keep stuff out of the basement, if that makes sense, or at least keep it to a minimum. So the video games are just in one of the it's in the guest bedroom, over on the east side of the house, east wing of the house. No. It is weird. I will say this. Every house I've lived in since I was a kid, it was built in the 1970s. This one was built in 2022. It is such a different world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing pictures.
Yeah, it's a neat house. Don't get me wrong. We love it, but it's different for someone that has lived in, houses built 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend is on the line with me. We've got a lot to get to this week because we're going to make up some time from last week and try and talk about a little bit of everything. So let's dive into it. Henry, new movie out.
What was it?
Henry, the gentleman movie. I can't think of what it's called.
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare?
There it is. Good man. Good job, Mike Reyes.
Yeah, it's like it's my job to know this stuff.
I know. It's my job to edit and do all that kind of stuff. So,
hey, we got jobs. We do jobs well.
What's the line from Avengers 2? Nope, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and make everybody look cool. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. What do we think of this?
It's a lot of damn fun. They're confident in this one for a reason. It is Guy Ritchie basically crossing Ocean's 11 with Inglourious Bastards, and it is so much damn fun. I want to see Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson do more movies together because they're such a, even before the movie came out, they've been doing promotions where they just rip on each other. And it's beautiful, like Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman energy, to the point where I've come up with my own desire to see them be their own version of Wolverine and Deadpool, and like maybe their variants, because that's what I get from those two. But besides that point, the entire cast is fantastic in here, and it's just very slick and exciting. There's like it almost reminds me of Guy Ritchie's work on Man from U.N.C.L.E. because it's that sort of like spies, but make it cool. But at the same time, they do take it seriously, as seriously as they need to, because this is, based off of actual historical events, and like records were declassified only a couple of years ago from this incident, which was known as Operation Postmaster.
You do get a very Inglourious Bastards vibe from it when you watch the trailer.
There is definitely more than a vibe, because parts of the score sound like it. The opening title card is very reminiscent of it. There's a couple twists here and there. They're definitely Inglourious Bastards style. And then you've got Til Schweiger, Hugo Stiglitz from Inglourious Bastards, cast as the villain in this film.
Oh, cool.
But at the same time, it's not just, we're ripping this off from Quentin Tarantino, who ripped it off from the original. That's not what's going on here. It's lovingly done. And nice. Guy Ritchie seems to have taken Inglourious Bastards, but also using that format to tell a true story that actually existed in one of the first big clandestine organizations during World War II.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now. So we like this. We think it's good. It's awesome.
Yes. I think it's actually ruined Henry Cavill for me in terms of James Bond. because while I think he would still be great for the role, he's having so much fun when he gets to be off the leash and unhinged. And again, he would do great as Bond, but that's so restrained and on the leash. And unless they're going for like a Roger Moore sort of sensibility or like a Matthew Vaughn sort of style when it comes to the next Bond, I think I'm good with going to another actor. And that man is definitely too busy at this point to be Bond if it's going to happen anytime soon, because what also happened recently was CinemaCon was last week, if I remember correctly. Yeah, last CinemaCon. And one of our, we had a team down there, and one of our people was basically like, yeah, Henry Cavill's Mr. Lionsgate right now because he has Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare coming out. He's got another, Guy Ritchie's been friggin' busy. And like he's been moving on these movies, like to the point where he basically has been getting out like a movie a year for the past couple of years. And he's got a thief movie, called a heist movie called In the Gray, and it's going to be Henry Cavill, Isa Gonzalez, who's also in Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I forget who else is in it, but it's like a nice cast. It's out next January. And he's going to be working on Guy Ritchie's going to be working on like a Fountain of Youth movie with like Natalie Portman and Jake Gyllenhaal. That's going to be like an adventure movie, I think. But back to Henry Cavill, he's got Ministry, he's got In the Gray, he's still doing the Highlander reboot. I think Chad Stahelski from John Wick is directing that. And then he's also still got that Warhammer 40K movie, show that he's working on for Prime. And he's apparently going to have a kid now.
Good for him.
Yeah, very good for him, because he went from, it's still legend that he was second in line for Bond in Casino Royale if they didn't pick Daniel Craig. And that's one of those things where I love Daniel Craig as Bond.
Yeah.
But I really would have been curious to see if they went with Henry at that point, if it would have been more of a consistent every 2 years, what they're trying to do now, like a more consistent every 2 years, a new movie, a younger actor so they can keep it going and maybe try to break Roger Moore's record, because Roger Moore still holds the record for, I believe, 7 movies as Bond. And nobody has, no one has come close after him to even beating it.
That's crazy.
But
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now as we talk about Henry Cavill, and the world of Ungentlemanly Warfares. Cannot get the name of that movie right, and I apologize.
Yeah, but at the same time, right now it works that you say that because we're talking about the world of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
There you go. One of the other movies you saw, actually, we're recording on Thursday morning. You saw last night, Abigail.
Yes, I did.
Why did you say it like that? Why did you give me
Abigail,
bedroom voice?
I did not give you bedroom voice. I gave you, I cannot wait to talk about this movie voice, because it is just so much fun.
Your bedroom and I want to talk about movies voices are pretty much the same.
I've never given you the bedroom voice, so don't even start.
Whatever. What about that night in Cancun?
He was never here, Trebek.
All right, let's talk about Abigail being a little girl that murders people because she's really a vampire.
A ballerina vampire.
Way different.
It's mentioned right in the trailer, and also it helps when it comes to taking out your victims, because she does it with a dance and a smile in her heart. And oh wow, I don't know if it's as tight as Ready or Not, because Radio Silence is a team that directed this film. They did Ready or Not. Matt Bettinelli, Open, and Tyler Gillette. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, sir. Forgive me. But basically, they're the team that did Ready or Not. They did the last 2 Scream movies and left the new one that's being made right now, and that's become a cluster and a half. But I'm kind of glad that they're not doing Scream anymore, because while their Scream movies were good, again, it's like Henry Cavill. I like seeing them do their own thing.
Okay.
And Abigail is definitely their own thing. It's a group of people that are hired. It's almost like Reservoir Dogs mixed in with Ready or Not, mixed in with a vampire. And basically what ends up happening is it's this group of criminal scum that are, I put that in quotes, because they're kind of lovable when you get to know them for the most part. These criminals are hired to abduct a little girl, and it's tale as old as time. Her daddy's rich. He'll pay the ransom. We're going to keep her in this mansion for 24 hours, and her daddy will pay $50 million. Surely nothing can go wrong here. Everything proceeds to go wrong.
Well, when she's a vampire ballerina, things are going to, it's going to hit the fan.
And at the heart of it all is the talented, the effortlessly brilliant in this movie, Alicia Weir, this young actress who plays Abigail. She was also in the new Matilda musical for Netflix. She played Matilda. And I totally forgot that, which, by the way, that was a fantastic film as well. But then this is a totally different side of her because it's so hard to cast young kids for, like, horror movies, especially when she is the functional antagonist of this movie. She is the main antagonistic force. So you're casting a young kid to kind of carry all of that weight in this movie. They got to be good.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. She is absolutely fantastic and digging into this whole thing with makeup and prosthetics and just enough sass against the adults that have her captured. And just to go through the cast of adults that you've got in this film, you've got Melissa Barrera from In the Heights in the last two Scream movies. Fantastic. Catherine Newton from Ant-Man Quantumania, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, also fantastic. The late Angus Cloud from Euphoria, who's just a wonderful goober of a thief. Kevin Durand, who I remember from The Strain and Resident Evil Retribution, he's in here as well. And then you've got Dan Stevens, who continues to get weird. He went from being a Titan veterinarian in Godzilla Kong to this real scummy former police detective who's part of all this. And from what we had someone do the set visit and do some interviews connected to the film, and apparently they based his character off, or his character was heavily influenced by an I Think You Should Leave sketch.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's the sloppy steaks guy where he's like, I was a real piece of And then, of course, you got Giancarlo Esposito coming in as like the guy that hires everybody. And William Catlett is another one of the criminals that I forgot to mention earlier, so I please forgive me there. But this is a lot of dark, fast fun. It also does not forget to be humorous. And I feel like Universal is really loving its monster history again, because they've been doing all these movies that are based off the classic monsters. Like you've got Invisible Man, you had Renfield, which was also fun. The Mummy, which was not that, the Tom Cruise Mummy, which was not that good.
No.
But, and I was also not a fan of Invisible Man. But the point is, Universal is digging back into its monsters catalog and just having fun instead of trying to push the dark universe. And I'm glad that they're letting themselves be open to that. And it just reminds me of how last year Universal was on this run with like Megan and Cocaine Bear, where it's just fun genre movies made for a decent amount of money. Like this is projected to be like 28 million in the budget range. That's estimated, and that, they're not counting advertising and all that. But I don't see this movie having a problem. I would like to say I don't see this movie having a problem making that money back, because it's fast, it's fun, and I would love to see the memes that come out of this, because there's potential.
Perfect. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me. Another movie that's coming out this weekend will be on Netflix, I believe, Rebel Moon Part 2. We're finally getting the final part of this movie that you didn't like the first part, right?
I was not a huge fan of Rebel Moon Part 1. And I fully admit that, because I felt like it was very much held back by being a PG-13 version for a movie that has an R-rated cut. And also it felt like it didn't feel like it was set up properly, but at the same time felt like a lot of setup. It was clearly wearing the Part 1 name on its sleeve.
Okay. So Part 2, what'd you think?
Part 2 is so much more fun.
Oh, good.
Part 2 is fast. It has tons of energy. There's a lot of explosions and battles, and even further delving into the past of these characters. And that was actually it did a better job of setting up the characters than Part 1 did.
Oh,
and
weird.
I think part of the problem with this whole thing is it was written as one gigantic story. They broke it into two parts. Okay, that's cool. If you don't break those two parts up in the right place, you have such a disconnect. The last time I remember this happening was with Hunger Games, when they broke Mockingjay into two different movies. The first part was all the setup, and it was like political intrigue, all just really good story. And then the second part was like action, 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 action. And it's like, okay, if I'm not watching this immediately after the first part, I don't get the desired effect from this.
Yeah. No,
and I think that's what happened again here. And I don't know if Zack Snyder can make a short movie anymore. That's fine with me. Let him make his long movies, and let the people that are confident enough to release them do it, because we saw with Justice League, it was much better than the one that went to theaters.
Alrighty.
But yeah, part 2 is you should watch part 1, because you will understand part 2 better. But if you go into part 2 first, you can kind of get yourself up to speed with what they have in there. They do kind of retread stuff a little bit, but it's a blast.
Okay.
It is an absolute blast.
I'll have to give it a watch this weekend. I still haven't seen the first one yet, so I'll have to dive into that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth it, especially because I like the fact that Netflix has basically been giving Zack Snyder a home after the whole debacle with his DC universe that never really took off. Or was never allowed to take them.
I also wonder, like in my case, where I haven't seen the first one yet, if I'll have a much different opinion over the whole thing when I could watch them back to back.
That's exactly why I would be up for going back to Rebel Moon Part 1. I would like to watch them back to back. I would love them if they just edit it into a full cut of just one film.
You imagine they probably will at some point, right?
Well, I'm not so sure about that, because what the next phase of life for this is, at some point this year they're going to release the extended 3-hour R-rated cut of each film, because each of them is going to be like a 3-hour R-rated thing, and it's not, and apparently it's not just a scene here and there to boost things up. It's like apparently a lot more goes into that, and one of the characters that continues to suffer from this approach is the robot Jimmy, voiced by Anthony Hopkins. Like, that character is apparently for some reason they are saving that character's huge arc for the extended cuts.
Okay.
But she's still pretty cool. Look, I got to watch 2 movies with Anthony Hopkins voicing a badass C-3PO rewrite, so I cannot complain about that.
There you go. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me as we talk about Rebel Moon Part 2. Backtracking a little bit from last week, we've got Civil War and Fallout yet to talk about, right?
Oh, yes.
Let's real quick hit Civil War, as that's been out for a week. This is the one where America kind of breaks down, right?
Yeah. Civil War breaks out because it's in the title. It's in the title there. But there are
It's called Civil
factions.
War, but it's about baking cakes.
Now this, Beauregard, is a civil war. More bourbon? But
you just reminded me of something really dumb.
Go with it. Follow your heart, my son.
Okay, so it kind of goes into some news this week that Star Trek Lower Decks isn't going to be renewed for another season.
Yeah.
They have this running joke of you could solve any problem if you have people dress up like Mark Twain and sit in a southern environment on the holodeck. So they have all these people dressing up as Mark Twain. I do declare, sir. And they've got aliens doing it, so it's stupidly funny. You just reminded me.
Which show is this again?
It's a Lower Decks.
Which track?
Lower Decks.
Oh, I was going to say it. I was assuming it was Lower Decks. I just wanted to make sure. Lower Decks, man. How are you handling the fact that the show is? Well, we could talk about that in news. We'll talk about that in news. I don't know if we already mentioned that before, but
that news just came out that they're not going to renew it. But anyways, yeah, we can touch on it here in a second. But Civil War, this looks cool. It looks scary in a sort of realistic way.
You are right on both counts. The best analog I can give for this, and it's because of writer-director Alex Garland. His first screenplay was 28 Days Later. This feels like, what if 28 Days Later was remade? The same road trip through the apocalypse, but instead of a zombie adjacent threat. It's political ideology and military madmen.
Yeah.
And that's basically, it is, Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Stephen McKinley Henderson, and Kaylee Spaney play journalists that are traveling from New York down to D.C. in the middle of this civil war, which apparently in the lore of the movie, it's not an easy straight shot anymore. You can't just go down 95 and get to D.C. You've got to go, they have to go around the long way. And you see the battles and the inhumanity that they experience on the way to D.C. because they want to get an interview with the president, played by Nick Offerman. And this guy is a piece of work who has done some really horrible stuff, and it's basically a ticking clock to get down there and all of the hurdles that they have to go through to get there. And it is lean, mean. It is under 2 hours. I could have, there were rumors before this movie that they were saying it's going to be 3 hours. I would have watched a 3-hour cut of Civil War.
That's cool.
I would have watched a miniseries of Civil War. But this thing, it does move fast, and it keeps energy, and it keeps momentum. And the last third of this movie is probably some of the best military action I've seen since Zero Dark 30.
Oh, cool. These type of movies, and you can legitimately say this about any type of movie, but this style of movie is easy to mess up when it's like the Civil War, the stuff that could be reality type stuff. They always mess it up somewhere,
It is. And the whole thing that they sort of went back and forth on was I don't know if it was just versions of the script or if there was versions of the movie that include this, but they were going to have title cards that explain, the scenario, how we got to this point in this alternate history.
No.
And then
Save that for the next movie.
That. Honestly, I'm hoping they do another one. Because the whole thing is, when you think about the ending enough, and I have an ending piece up on Cinemablend right now that discusses this, but when you think about the ending enough, there is room. And Alex Garland is co-directing a movie called Warfare with his military coordinator from this film. And I'm wondering if maybe A24 wanted him to go like the Maxine and Pearl route and do a secret sequel that's like, they could just drop on everyone. It's like, yeah, you were wowed by this movie. Guess what? You're going to get a little more of that world.
Guess what? Here it comes.
Civil War too. Civil harder.
Civil War.
But, yeah, go see this in IMAX while you can, because they've been making a deal about it being. The whole thing is like full screen IMAX, but the sound design on this movie is impressive, especially in that last siege on DC.
Nice.
I mean, it's not telling it. I'm not spoiling it for anyone when I'm saying there is a siege on DC at the end, because you see it in the trailers. But it plays. It is just. I don't know if it's because of my ADHD or being the son of a Marine, but I was locked into that. I saw it twice, because I saw it for the press screening, and then I took my wife to see it last weekend. Both times, that last third, I am just locked in, because it is all, you're in the trenches and you're watching this just being amazing. Like, oh man.
Mike Reyes, and I'm not laughing at you. You made me think of something else. I need to send you a picture here in a minute.
Oh, no problem with that. You can laugh. It didn't sound like you were laughing like meanly. That was a friend laugh.
I just sent you a meme that you made me think of.
I'm going to check this out now while B-sox resets us over the end.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me. So that kind of takes care of the movies from this week. Did you just see it? Moving over to the world of Prime, Fallout. How did they release this? Did this get released like all at once, or like weekly, or what was the story with this?
All 8 episodes went out at once.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people are wondering why. Like, some people are like, oh, why would you do that with this show? It's going to have heat. Everyone's talking about it. I think the reason that Fallout went out in one shot is because fans of the Fallout games know what it's like to sit in front of a screen for hours and embark on a campaign. So they know their audience. They know that they're going to be intrigued, and they're going to continue to look for Easter eggs and connections and canon inaccuracies. They know they're going to be locked into this for an extended period of time.
Okay.
So, and also the response to, they did a screening of the first 2 episodes at an event, and apparently the response was so good that Amazon pushed the release up an extra day. So it released on Wednesday instead of Thursday, because Amazon's been doing Thursday releases lately, which is wonderful if I want to last minute catch something for the show.
Yeah.
But they've been bullish on this show. Like, I think that's the term. I think bullish is like, bull bear market, whereas like bear is like shaky, bull is like strong. But
Strong
they've been
like
very
bull.
optimistic about the show. Yeah, well, there you go. They had good reason to be optimistic on this show. You've got Jonathan Nolan executive producing, who is not only one of the people behind Westworld, but and Christopher Nolan's half brother, or Christopher Nolan's brother, who co-wrote like Dark Knight and Interstellar with him. He's also a Fallout fan. You've got who else is part of this wonderful team? I just need to properly credit everyone with this because of how much I love this show. You've got Geneva Robinson-Dworet and Graham Wagner as the creators of the show. And then you've got this amazing cast. Ella Purnell is fantastic as Lucy. She's our Vault Dweller this time. Aaron Moten is Maximus. He's a Brotherhood of Steel representative. And then Walton Goggins is the Ghoul. Not just a Ghoul, but the Ghoul. You'll learn his real name later, but he's introduced to you as the Ghoul. And for 8 episodes, those people and a wonderful cast of guest stars and recurring characters weave this story that is just it's surprisingly funnier than I thought it was going to be. They show off some of the trademark Fallout like kill cams, like when you there's a certain mechanic in Fallout that when you use VATS, the targeting system, and you shoot someone rather effectively, it'll follow the bullet and you'll see like a really bloody death or a real effective death. Like sometimes if you use a laser pistol, you can melt someone in ashes.
Would it surprise you that I've never played a Fallout game?
It would. And they are all on sale right now for consoles, like on like discounted sale because of the show. Apparently it's caused a bump in playership for like pretty much all the modern ones, but even some of the older ones. Like there has been a big renewal in interest, which is great because they are working on Fallout 5 right now. And it's this, you just got this, it's got a really unexpected sense of humor to it. That's fantastic. It's just a real damn blast. Cool. And I keep saying that about things. I get it. I'm sorry I'm being repetitive. And also that doubles as a pun for Fallout because bombs, but it's just it treats the source material with reverence, but it's not afraid to do its own thing. And the season ends on a cliffhanger that I definitely need them to greenlight season 2 right now. There's been talks about them filming it at some point, and they're getting the locations lined up. I think they're going to start shooting it in California this season, or shooting it more in California. But I don't think there's been an official green light just yet. I need that.
I need it, or things are going to happen, and it's not going to be pretty.
And I need Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy to be given the pleasure of finishing Westworld because they still want to finish it, and we still need that too.
Didn't even know they didn't finish Westworld.
It was canceled before the last season they had planned.
Ah, damn.
Like right at the last one, and some people are like, it still works where it ended, and it's like, I still haven't watched the last 2 seasons, but it's like, you know what? They said 5 seasons. I want 5 seasons from them because I'm someone that has not fallen off that train, and I doubt I will because I'm weird like that, and I like what they've been doing with Westworld.
I get
what
it.
They were doing with Westworld.
We've had that discussion before. I don't know what it was about Westworld, but I lost interest.
I got you.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on with me. So that kind of takes care of the reviews. Moving over to the world of reviews. Moving over to the world of movie news. Real quick, the Star Trek Discovery stuff, not Discovery, Lower Decks. They said that they're not going to continue it. Star Trek fans are really upset because they really dig Lower Decks. And you asked how I felt about it. I get it. They're trying to save money right now where they can. Lower Decks seems like they cut Prodigy, and Prodigy got picked up elsewhere. So maybe this, same thing.
Maybe. I mean, I need to actually, I've seen episodes of Lower Decks, but I haven't watched the whole thing. But even in the episodes that I've seen, I know that these people love Star Trek. They care about Star Trek to their core.
Yeah.
to the point where, again, one of the references I keep going back to is the theme park episode where you've got the first contact ride and the theme plays in there. And just the references that they make. And even to the point where looking at the Strange New Worlds crossover episode.
That one was so
that
good.
They just, that fidelity from what I heard just carried over. It's a labor of love. And I hate seeing labors of love it's just like Westworld. I hate seeing things like that get canceled for one reason or another.
Yeah, I know. It sucks, but it was going to happen at some point. I mean, geez, nothing's gotten 7 seasons since the last one would have been Voyager, if you think about it.
Yeah, I still want that's another thing I'm mad about. Voyager never got movies.
Well, they got home. What movie were you supposed to make?
You could send them on another adventure. You could even just follow them at home. And it's like, how do they reacclimate to being home after all those years in deep space fighting and scrapping, and maybe something comes back from one of their previous episodes? It's Star Trek. Do you really need a damn reason?
You know what you just made me? You remember Die Hard 2?
Yeah.
How could the same shit happen to the same guy 2 years in a row?
Even if it's just a fake trailer. I want someone to write a fake trailer where that basically happens to the crew of the Voyager, and Janeway gets that line. I will need to hear Kate Mulgrew say that.
But, I could see it being like a Prodigy thing and getting picked up elsewhere. I mean, there seems to be an audience for it. I think it was one of those things that it took a little bit of time to figure it out. The first season, it definitely found its footing quick, and it became some of my favorite Star Trek. Like, I wasn't sold on it to begin with, but after a few seasons of it, I really do enjoy it. I have a blast with it whenever I watch it. So,
are we still talking about Lower Decks, or?
Yeah, elsewhere. So we'll see what happens with that. Transformers 1 got a preview out that we watched. It's another movie using classic rock as music for the background. When did that become the thing?
I don't know. I think it's easy to, maybe the whole thing is they're trying to get adults hooked in on the new Transformers movie because it's animated, and they're like, adults are going to have problems with animation. How do we do this? And it's like, wait a minute, what if we use classic rock to goose things up here? And they did.
I don't know. It seems like everybody, like, at some point the classic rock is going to be used up, or you're going to get to the bottom of the barrel classic rock,
So what do you consider bottom of the barrel classic rock? I need to know this.
I am not getting into that conversation here on when I work for a classic rock station.
See, it's not fun when someone pokes the bear.
No, it's fine. Like, we used to.
I get that though.
Okay, so inside radio thing, like, usually when you work for a radio station, you can never say what music you think is actually bad, right?
That's fair. And I'm not going to, I was literally just kidding with you, and I'm not pressuring you for an answer.
No, but I think it's an interesting conversation because there's different thoughts about it. Like, I worked for one station where if something came up and you don't have to bash it to say I'm not a fan of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, there are songs on this classic rock station that I work for that I never need to hear again, ever. Now, I'm not going to say what they are, but
exactly.
But to think that you're going to love everything that happens on a station, you're crazy.
And if anybody really thought that you didn't have those opinions, like, that's no.
Well, the funny one is when people find out, they're like, you work for a classic rock station and listen to country or, hip hop or, what have you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, you don't run into that very often, but it is what it is. But anyways, back to the Transformers 1 thing. It's an origin story, it looks like, for Optimus Prime back when he was an Orion Pax. The animation style's neat in it. But I think it's going to be another Transformers movie,
I think it looks like a lot of fun. I think it honestly does look like a lot of fun, and I think it's interesting that they're sort of pivoting into that hard now. Like, that's over the past couple of years, like, trying to remember the Transformers movie from last year, Rise of the Beasts.
Yeah.
Rise of the Beasts was another one where it was like they just turned to fun and a good soundtrack, and it was great. It was truly the direction that this franchise should have taken beforehand. But people did like the way the Bay movies did it, and that persisted for a little while. But I'm glad that they're in this place now.
I guess
And
I look at it
it looks like it could be fun.
I guess I look at it like this, where it's hard when there's not a lot of lore to begin with a certain subject, like take Transformers, when you're trying to base the movies off of, a cartoon from the 80s.
That was based off a toy.
There's not always going to be really well done lore in this manner. And so when they try and create it, sometimes it hits really well and sometimes it doesn't.
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I was going to go for. It's like sometimes the lore expansion is great, and sometimes you get something that just does not gel.
Oh, that motherfucker's Megatron in it, isn't he?
Yes, Brian Tyree Henry's Megatron.
No,
and he's awesome.
I was just kind of skipping through. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole trailer earlier, and I just saw the part where they're getting their transformation thing put in, and the one guy on the end is Megatron. I'm like, oh, that's Megatron.
Yeah, because the whole thing is like Optimus and Megatron were mine workers together,
buddies.
and they're buddies. It's like buddy cop before the other buddy turns into a genocidal robot.
Yeah, there you go. So that's out there. It's Chris Hemsworth's a voice in it. Who else is in it?
Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Steve Buscemi, John Hamm.
I'm sure it'll be good. I'm sure ittle be fun. I imagine Jason and I will go see this.
Yeah, you two will have fun and, go out for a burger afterwards and
go out for a burger.
Transformers.
Yeah. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me. We had more. It's not often we have more reviews than news,
Yeah.
I guess we could.
Well, I thought we had quite a few. I thought we had a few that we discussed.
Well, there's some of them that it's like we just were like, do we talk about this type of thing? But the Leonardo DiCaprio stuff, right before we came on, you got a message about this.
Yeah, well, this has been an interesting week for Leonardo DiCaprio because not only is he apparently in line to do Frank Sinatra biopic with Martin Scorsese, which they've been trying to do for some time now, and he was previously linked into that project. But now Zack Snyder revealed on Happy, Sad, Confused with Josh Horowitz that he was talking to Leonardo DiCaprio as a potential Lex Luthor for his DC universe, and that he may have given him the idea of Superman fighting the Justice League and eventually Breaking Bad.
Interesting. That could have been fun. Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, it'd be fun to see him in a role that people know. Does that make sense?
In like an IP. Like Leonardo DiCaprio being part of an IP that's like big time.
Yeah. Well, not even big time, but just like a character that people know. The characters I think he plays are people that, it's a good character. Don't get me wrong. It's just nobody has seen it,
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. And it's really funny because when we were reading over that news, someone else had mentioned, oh, wait, didn't he basically warns people not to do superhero movies. Like he gave Timothée Chalamet the career advice is like, don't get into drugs and don't do superhero movies.
Oh, wow.
But I think that, so they were like, why would he do this? And I think the reason he was interested in this is because Zack Snyder doesn't do like traditional Marvel superhero movies. He has a different take on the material and a different take on those universes. And I still want to see him finish that Justice League trilogy. And that's, it's just so off the beaten path from Marvel and DC's more normal blockbuster fare. And we have seen that in very stark contrast with all the DC movies that have come after Zack Snyder's departure from the franchise, or even just the Justice League that went to theaters. We saw that readily apparent.
I think if you did put Leonardo DiCaprio into that world, you'd have to make him a villain. I don't see him as a good guy.
I still think if you cross Wolf of Wall Street with Django Unchained, that's your Leonardo DiCaprio Lex Luthor. And now I'm even sadder that that's not happening.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend on the line. What are the other things that has come out this week? And it gives us our chance to put in our weekly Norm Macdonald mention. O.J. Simpson passed away. That would have been like about a week ago or so.
I believe so, yeah.
The amount of jokes that have come out, and usually, in this situation, we don't really joke about people dying, but it's OJ. We've gotten a ton of replay of the Norm Macdonald jokes about OJ Simpson.
The story about Norm Macdonald getting functionally getting fired from NBC and Saturday Night Live because of ripping on OJ has been circulating a lot lately, as well as clip reels of his best Weekend Update bits. And there was even a bit where I forget which show he was on, but someone was talking to Norm Macdonald about when OJ was first diagnosed with, allegedly, this clip was pulled, and he was supposedly talking to a talk show host about OJ being diagnosed with brain cancer a while ago. And he was like, "No, I don't wish that on anyone. My beef's not, my beef's that he committed murder and got away with it. Like, I don't wish the cancer on him or anyone."
Yeah.
And it was just that wonderful nuance of, he was going through his own health struggle at that time. So he has that much empathy. He has the right amount of empathy where it's like, I don't wish cancer on my worst enemy. But at the same time, the reason I rip on you is because of what you've done or what you allegedly did and were allegedly acquitted of in court. And then there was a civil trial, and then there were other events. But it's a steady beam because you don't wish death on anyone. But O.J. Simpson is still a controversial public figure and a very complicated legacy of being a fantastic actor, or being a fun actor, a fantastic athlete, and apparently not that good of a human.
Yeah. I do think it's funny, and that kind of segues into the other Naked Gun stuff. The Naked Gun clip of him getting going down the stairs at the end of the first one.
Yeah. Oh, if there was anything that aged well after OJ had fallen from grace, it was those Naked Gun movies. And another thing that came out after he had passed, Gail Ann Hurd, one of the producers of the Terminator franchise that helped originate it with James Cameron, she came out and debunked the long-standing story that they were looking at O.J. Simpson to play the T-800, but rejected him because he didn't look like a killer. They apparently were not looking at him at any point, and that story somehow became, the legend, myth and legend, but it was never really, they didn't really consider him.
What was the Naked Gun? Oh, Pamela Anderson's going to join the cast. That's what it was.
Yes. Pamela Anderson is apparently joining the cast of Liam Neeson's Naked Gun reboot, which is set to come out next summer. Paramount did announce the movie as part of their raft of films that are in production and in development for the next 2 years. I'm assuming this is going to be a full-on reboot, and she will be playing the Priscilla Presley role against Liam Neeson's Frank Drebin.
I'm in. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. Talking to me about movies and magic and everything in between. As we get ready to wrap up this week, something I threw at you yesterday, and I don't know if you took the time to check them out, but I've seen, and it's been on a couple different social media channels, YouTube, it's popping up a lot, these AI-generated movies that look like they were made in the 50s.
I saw that there's a whole bunch of them. I didn't look at the videos, but I saw that there are indeed just a whole bunch that are out there of these. Yeah, you said it best. It's just AI fakes that created these movies like The Matrix made in Super Panavision in the 1950s, or Star Wars is like a 50s thing. Like, retro remakes, basically.
One of the ones, and you can find it on YouTube, it's search Abandoned Films is the guy who did it, or gal. They've got the Super Mario, The Matrix, Walking Dead, The Terminator, The Hobbit, Tron, Avatar, Star Wars, Shrek, Avengers, and so on and so forth. In the last 3 weeks, they've put out about 15 of these.
Well, that's AI for you. You can very easily crank this stuff out if you're just plugging it into a computer, and it doesn't need to actually make a movie out of it. It's just, here's a video of a whole bunch of images that, what would it look like if it did this?
Yeah.
Ooh, aha.
It's weird. Like, it's on the surface of it, you're like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then you start watching, like, oh, wow, this could be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And that comes on the heels of the whole there was a fake Henry Cavill AI video for a trailer for Bond 26, and it's a mixture of AI art of him and Margot Robbie and clips from like Man from U.N.C.L.E. and other movies, and it's just and not very good voiceover. So it just we are in strange times right now with AI, and yeah.
You know, and AI has definitely come a long ways in the last year, nonetheless. But like some of this is weird where it's going along and then it like tries to move and it kind of morphs and it looks weird.
Yeah, or people's fingers are there's too many or too few. Or
Yeah.
some of it's just like if it's used in the right way, I don't mind it. Like I forget the name of the song, but there was like a music video that was just really creepy AI that was ripping on or spoofing like 90s TV show, like talk shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was fun. But it's just when it becomes too derivative and too I'm very mixed on the subject.
The Terminator one is really interesting to look at, and the Tron one, I'm not gonna lie, there's something about a Tron movie done in a 1950s style, like what they think technology was gonna look like, seems kind of rad to me.
That could be very interesting.
Like what that computer world would look like. I don't know. I just thought I'd bring it up. So Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joins me every week to talk about movies. Mike, we'll leave it there for this week. You have a good one, okay?
Yeah, and just remember, go out there, be nice to each other. Don't, just kill each other randomly in a fit of jealous rage.